coming on in. Welcome to Boynton Hall, guys. I'm in Boynton Hall today. I am back. We're back. I'm just looking to see who's here. Hi, everybody. All right, about 10 minutes to go, so relax. We'll get going at 3 or a minute or 2 after. Thank you, Steve. I'm very happy to be back in Boynton. Although has anybody been watching a really good pandemic Netflix? Actually, it's not Netflix, it's Hulu streaming. Last Man on Earth. Anybody been watching that show? It's actually sort of frightening and creepy in that it is, you know, it was filmed in 2015-16, and it's about a pandemic in 2020. So it was eerily weird. Anyway, so there's not very many people left on Earth. And I felt a little bit like that yesterday when I took a little walk outside Boynton Hall and there was hardly anybody around. But it's very exciting to be back, and I'm super energized to be in the office. And I hope some of you are ready to be too pretty soon. Not yet, but we're getting there. I will talk about that today. Oh, yay. I'm so happy to hear some of you are excited about coming back. You know, some of you are also really nervous about it. So we'll talk about that too. So yes, I have all my my toys here that I've been missing. Like, where's my goat? Wait. What happened to my goat? Oh, there it is. Like my fabulous origami Gompy, or Origampi for short, that the students made for me. Absolutely amazing, complete with tail and horns and little, what do you call that thing underneath the goat's neck? Like goat waddle. I think Student Alumni Society students made this for me. So it's just fun to come back in and rediscover all my toys and half-dead plants and things like that. And I had to work on my Zoom background though, right, for the office, because I had my Zoom background all set for home. But so I brought Mars over. I always had Earth here over this shoulder, but here's Mars over this shoulder. Got to keep my planet peeps close. Okay, got over 100 people already. That's great. Welcome everyone. Aaron Skulich, you're always right at the top of the list. Double A, welcome. Wow. Okay. Could you flip forward for just 1 second, Kate? Just 1 slide forward. Thank you. Okay. Very good. All right, you can go back now. Thanks. All right. We got some YouTubers coming on too, I imagine. All right, so we got about 6 or 7 minutes to go. So I'm going to mute myself and turn off my video for a second, and I will be right back with you. Hey, everybody. All right, about 3 minutes till 3, so we'll give everybody a few more and then get going. As you may recognize, I am in Boynton Hall. I am on campus. I've been back in the office for a couple of days and been doing my town halls from here, and it is great to be in. If you hear big trucks are pounding, it's because there's an absolute ton of work going on at the construction site. It's amazing to see. So it's very, very cool. Hope everybody's hanging in and doing well. And got between YouTube and here over 250 people already. And I'm sure we're going to get a bunch more streaming in as we get to the top of the hour. So very happy to be back here. I've got visiting old friends from my desk that I haven't seen in a while. Like here's my Lego Sally ride. Sally is one of my heroes, and she is one of the things that inspired me to get involved in space exploration, because I was in high school when she took her first flight, and then I'm very happy to say that much later in my life, and she and I became friends, and she was a great mentor to me. So it's awesome to have her Lego presence here. I'm just finding all these fun things up from my desk that I kind of forgot I had. And then for those of you that have joined just recently, I will re-show another one of my favorites, which I have held on to for a couple of years, which is a origami Gumpy that the Student Alumni Society made for me. Absolutely amazing. Very, very impressed with this. All right, 2:59. We'll give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Really nice to see everyone. This is my third of 4 town halls between yesterday and today. I've already done town halls for returning students and parents. Yesterday we had 1,000 people, and today for incoming students and parents, where I think we had 500 or 600 people. So truly amazing. Okay, it's 3 o'clock, but we're going to give folks one more minute to join. Because I know if you're all are like me, your Zoom schedule is Zoom packed, back-to-back meetings. Welcome, everyone. Get started in just a minute. Great. Nice to see so many wonderful names on the list. All right, everybody, welcome. People still coming in at a pretty good clip. I'm gonna give it one more minute and then we'll get started. Whew. Okay. Well, we got about 400 on Zoom and another not quite 100 on YouTube. So I think that's a pretty good crowd for us to get started, and we'll take it slow here at the beginning. So as people join, they can get involved in the conversation. So hi, everyone. Can you just go back for 1 second? Just want to make sure everybody remembers how this works, which is the same way it has been working, which is if you have a question, you can type it in the Q&A function. And it'll either get answered by somebody with fingers immediately, or we will do our best to get through as many questions as we can within the hour. And anything that we don't get to, we'll follow up with you to try to answer. And thanks for that. And it looks like we have the upvoting on, so that if you have a question that or want to endorse a sentiment like Deb's, you can do that. So thanks, and you can go forward then. Thanks so much. So here we are, full 3 months now into our essentially remote operations at WPI, and I just want to express huge appreciation for the work that everyone has done during this time, for the innovation that has taken place, for the creativity, for the hardship that everyone has gone through, especially those of you with small kids who are working and dealing with that. And oh my gosh, I'm so grateful and so impressed. And this is the meeting where we're going to really start to focus our attention in a more serious way on returning to campus. We're going to talk slow, nothing immediate is happening, but I want to start to give you insights there about the safety measures we're all going to be taking and about some of the thinking about phasing that we're going to have. So we're going to give you a lot of information about that, and then we're going to follow that up with more. I will tell you, for those of you that haven't been on the last couple of minutes to hear me say this, I am coming to you today from Boynton Hall, from my office. Yay, I'm here, and I'm listening to the loud noise of construction on a building coming up that hill that you will be amazed to see when you're back on campus. And the campus is here, and special thanks to facilities, grounds people who have done amazing work to keep the campus in good shape, and have been incredibly helpful in places where things have gone awry in terms of buildings. But we overall are in really good shape here and continue to make huge progress on getting the campus ready for everybody to return. So, or for many of us to return, as it makes sense to do so, to be clear. I don't mean everybody. So we're gonna talk about all of that today. But before we do, if you could just go forward one, I just wanna acknowledge, before we jump into sort of more campus focused updates on fall and on our continued response to the COVID-19 crisis, I just want to acknowledge that our nation is really in turmoil right now. We're reckoning with centuries of systemic racial discrimination and racism. This particular photo, by the way, was taken right here in Worcester, where last week, many days last week, and probably even more this week, I don't know. But this was taken last week when over 1,000 people gathered on the Worcester Common to peacefully protest right down the road from us. And look, they're all wearing masks, so very, very good there. I want to state really clearly that I believe, and WPI believes, that Black Lives Matter, that I share in the anger and the outrage that is being peacefully expressed through these protests and marches and actions of all kinds. I think I'm very committed that WPI must and will take action here. You know that I already sent a message to the community that was an initial message that really just restated our values and stated our commitment to stand with Black and Brown students, faculty, staff, community members, and to stand in opposition to racial injustice. But that was necessary, but not sufficient. It's not enough. We need to do more. We will do more. First, I want to acknowledge the Shutdown STEM effort yesterday, Professor Strauss and others, folks in our Office of Multicultural Affairs, lots of different folks participated in various events, and also just a lot of reflection about the need to change our system to become more racially just. And we've received some input already from a group of very thoughtful alumni, which I'm excited about. So we're getting a lot of input right now. People are doing a lot of thinking and reflection right now, and I think that's great. We need to take that and start to come back out to the community with actions that we will be taking. So I'm not yet ready to do that today. while we've been so in the throes of planning for fall, but we will be doing it in very short order, and we'll be talking about it more. And certainly at our next town hall meeting, we'll be talking about it more. So you will be hearing more from us in the coming days on the topic of racial justice. And just before we leave this topic for today, I just want to acknowledge that there are undoubtedly people on the line today on this call who have experienced discrimination and racism at WPI. And I want to speak to them, and I want to say I am sorry. I want to say that I'm sorry that we haven't done more to acknowledge racism at WPI and to eradicate it. And we need to do better. And to me, this is just a moral imperative that we work together to do better, and that we acknowledge that there are challenges in our culture that we need to take on here. And I am committed to doing that with all of you. And I hope and expect and know that you all are just as committed to that as I am. So again, real challenge when we're all off in our own parts of the Commonwealth and the region. Would be easier to work on this if we were together, but that's not an excuse. We need to come together however we can and work on this. So thank you for that. Can I have the next slide, please? So as I always do when we're talking about our response to coronavirus, to this current moment, this pandemic, and the economic crisis that's accompanied it, I share the slide that's our North Star. I hope people are not getting cynical about this, because I take it extremely seriously. This is about, today we're going to talk about how we're thinking about bringing people back to campus. And as we're doing that, the safety and health of our community are front and center. Serving our students is front and center. Supporting our faculty as they are being asked to do unprecedented levels of work in support of our students. And keeping our WPI family together, that commitment continues. And again, I think if you've been out there reading the literature about other colleges and universities, you see that lots of people are furloughing lots of people, laying people off, and we have not done that. And so I'm proud that we've worked really hard to keep our family together, and we'll keep talking about what it's going to take to do that. No new announcements on that front today. We are marching arm in arm together, and we'll continue to move forward together. Taking great care and respect with each other. Again, I know everyone is on edge from so many different perspectives, so many different pressures, whether that's economic pressure or health and work pressure. And now to add on top of that, the pressure of really being confronted and wanting to take on and dismantle the racial injustices in our system. All of these things are things that will cause us to need to treat one another with even greater care and greater respect than we usually do. The broader community, again, continuing to serve Worcester, Massachusetts, our nation, our planet, also figures prominently in this. So those things remain our North Star. I want to talk some about the current status, and that's on the next slide. So where are we? And I've been talking about this, thank you, with families as well. So I said this perhaps before some of you were on the line, but I've done just earlier today a town hall with class of 2024 incoming students and parents. We had 500 or 600 people there. Yesterday we did one with returning students and parents. We had 1,000 people in attendance at that one. So we are engaging lots of folks in the message about fall and fall planning. Here's what I would say to you about the fall planning. We're going to talk a lot more about it today. It's not done. It's not fully baked. The reason that we're having this conversation today is so that we can get your input, share our thinking, get your feedback before the cake is fully baked. This is the idea. And we're obviously consulting people in a lot of other different forums as well. But I just want to make sure that we're sharing and being as transparent, spitting on myself, as we can with all of you before, again, many weeks before these plans will be formally announced, if you will. So the plan here is to formally announce on July 1 our intention for fall. So again, we're trying to get your input on that plan now. So D-term success, I just to again acknowledge some things that are going on currently. We delivered over 600 courses and projects remotely, incredibly well done by our faculty and by all the staff who support them, and the TAs and PLAs and everyone else involved in in making that a success. Thank you so much. We are beginning to reopen the campus. This is exciting. Research labs are ramping back up now. I think there are about 35 PIs who have had their research reopening plans approved and are back in their labs as of this week. Some started as early as last week or maybe even the week before. Oh my gosh, the time is still running together. We have several more in the queue and we're working our way through those. We are, just like we will do with repopulating offices or reopening offices on campus, we are doing this slowly, carefully, thoughtfully, probably too slow for some, maybe too fast for others. That tells me we might be hitting it about right. Faculty and staff will talk much more in this conversation today about our plans to have certain members of faculty and staff return in larger numbers later in the summer. Move out, just so you all know, remember one of the complexities here was that we essentially shut down the campus during spring break when 2,000 student stuff was still in their rooms. And so we had to figure out how to get 2,000 student stuff out of their rooms. We are about 75% through that process at the moment. And if you ever see a member of the residence life staff again, you should give them a very big socially distanced hug because they have done absolutely incredible work. And then they are pivoting right on a dime and getting ready for fall, which is going to be equally challenging. So that's an amazing thing. All right. So a couple of other things about the current status. Next slide. For us, the most important times of the year are fall when students arrive and spring when students graduate. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of that milestone, especially in this time. I want to thank our faculty. This is a screenshot from the very last faculty meeting of the year where, as we all know, the most important thing that happens is they vote the graduates. So they give the thumbs up, like literally like Chris Billiar is there in the middle of this picture for that the grads are go for lunch. And they dressed up for the occasion. Most of them wore their regalia for the picture, which is so cool. I don't know why Mark Richmond seems to be dressed in some sort of a Star Wars outfit there with the hood, but anyway, congratulations to the class of 2020. And that's not all. Next slide. They are, so first of all, here are the numbers up top for the class of 2020. So the people who graduated from WPI this year, almost 1,050 bachelors, almost 700 masters, 54 PhDs. That's incredible. And by the way, they're all getting their diplomas. So here we see the incredible team from registrar stuffing the boxes and boxes and boxes. And you can see there will be almost 2,000 of them diplomas, as well as a few other goodies to go out to our graduates. So that was happening this week. Those pictures from a few days ago, and those boxes will be going out to our grads. So thanks so much to them. So that's kind of the current status, and I'll talk a little bit more about finances too as we get into this. But as we sort of pivot and start talking about future planning, next slide, I just want to acknowledge that that there are a huge range of feelings that perhaps even individuals experience when you think of starting to come out of the phase that we've been in and phasing back into on-campus operations. Some people are really gung-ho. We see some of them have posted in the Q&A, and thank you so much for that. And you know, want to be back immediately. And also I think there are people who, and this is certainly true among our students, who somehow think we're going to be back and it's not going to be any different. That's not true. But so we got a lot of people who are enthusiastic. We also have a lot of people who are really scared and really nervous and have good justification for being nervous. If they themselves are immunocompromised, they share a home with someone who's immunocompromised, they have small kids, and the reality of the landscape about childcare is still so unclear. I absolutely get it. And I want you to know that we're going to talk about plans today, but I really respect that people have a range of reactions. My goal here today and going forward is to provide you with lots of information. So again, to really make clear what our intentions are, that hopefully helps raise your confidence. So a lot of information, hopefully build confidence in folks, and also talk about flexibility. We'll talk about that a lot today. We're talking about that a lot with our students, really to enable them to have flexibility. And to the extent we can, Allowing flexibility for faculty and staff is something that we will be exploring as well. It's not always going to be possible to be as flexible as some of our faculty and staff would like, but we're going to do everything we can to try and support needed flexibility. So just acknowledging that as the CERT, as again, the dozens and dozens of people in every corner of the campus, and thank you so much for their work, are working through at an unbelievable level of detail every single thing we can think of about reopening. We're doing so within this context that there's this huge range of reactions and concerns. And so the CERT team is working like crazy to make sure that the return to campus that we have, if you go to the next slide, is so this is, I will take credit or not for this tagline. It's driven by the best science, and it's engineered for WPI. And I think both those things are really important. One, we have to be we have to make decisions based on science, because that's the kind of people that we are, it's the kind of organizations we are. And I'm gonna make you nerd out with me here for a second in a minute, just coming up. But we also have to recognize that we are WPI, and we have a strong commitment to hands-on project-based learning, and we've got to meet our mission in ways that make sense for us. And we've got to offer flexibility as a part of who we are too. And so we've got to think about how we offer flexible options. So all those things are a part of our planning. I will say that our goal here is to be back in person to serve our students as much as is feasible. And again, we haven't made that decision yet. The decision will be announced on July 1, and we will be talking with you again before that. But that is the goal that we're planning towards, and you're going to hear a lot today about how that would look, again, to get your feedback and your input. Understanding that just because we're back doesn't mean we're back to normal. This will be a new normal with new expectations, serious expectations actually, on the part of all members of our community, because until we have a vaccine or a really effective treatment, COVID-19 is going to be with us. And so we have to, as we all have already done, we've changed the way we interact with the world. Some of those changes are going to carry over to our return to campus. When I talk to the students, I talk to them about the fact that I get that they are not high risk, most of them, for, they might get sick, but they're very unlikely to need hospitalization or, God forbid, pass away from COVID. But there are other members of our community, some students for sure, but faculty and staff, there are members of our community who are at higher risk, and we need to acknowledge that. And so I think the most important work that we have ahead of us, the CERT, we WPI faculty and staff, and we, the entire WPI community, including students, is about understanding our community responsibility to help reduce the spread and reduce transmission on the campus. And so we are making our plans for a phased return of faculty and staff, for academics and projects and dining and student affairs, student life, all within the context of this new normal, of new safety protocols. And I'm going to be talking about those today. So if you would just geek out with me for 1 second, maybe 2 seconds, 2 slides. I'm going to just talk a little bit about this. I fully expect that most of you already understand this, because after all, we are WPI and we are the geeks. And so, but for a lot of the families, I just want to make sure, a lot of the students, that they understand what we're trying to do here when we say wear a face covering, when we say keep your distance, when we say wash your hands. It's all about driving down the rate of spread of this disease. Left without these safety protocols, it's a really contagious disease. So what is shown on the left here is a disease that is so contagious that if one person gets infected, they on average infect 4 other people. That's this term known as R naught or RT. It's the degree of infectiveness, essentially, of the, I'm not sure that's a word. How infectious the disease is, let's put it that way. And so if one person on average infects 4 other people, pretty quickly, with a range of infections beyond that, you can go from 1 person being infected with COVID to 86 people being infected. That's what this whole thing on the left shows. But if you can slow the spread by things like mask wearing and hand washing, and make it so that only if somebody is infected, they only infect 1 other person, you drive that RT down from 4 people to 1 person, then in that same range of infections, you only get 4 total people infected. So from 86 people to 4 people. One is a massive outbreak. The other is totally manageable. And by the way, when you think about who all those purple people are on the lower left of this slide, a lot of those people are us, the people on this call, the faculty and staff. And so again, very, very important that we set the tone that we need to slow the spread when we're all together on campus, or we simply won't be able to be. So that's what these protocols are about. And this is shown again in a slightly different way on the next slide, which is just about, and this is a slightly different take on this, but it's driving down that RT, that average number of people that get the disease when one person is infected. In this case, from more like 2.5 or 3 down below 1. If you can get this number down below 1, you will never have a big outbreak. You will never have an outbreak. And so again, things like face coverings and distancing and self-diagnosis, that is staying home when you're sick or have symptoms, cleaning, things like that it really works to drive down the degree of infectiousness. So that's why when we all come back to campus, we will be operating with new norms, and we'll talk more about that. So that's my foray into driven by science. That's why we're going to be doing what we're doing, because the science shows it works. And last thing I'll say before I leave this slide is the science about this virus is still evolving. It's changing. Not that our understanding of this is getting better and better on how to slow the spread. Also, our understanding of asymptomatic people and how they spread the disease and things like that. It's changing. We're learning so much more every single day. So I would expect the safety protocols we're going to put in place are going to be pretty stringent and significant, especially at the beginning. And then as we learn more, it may be that we can relax things. We will have to see. But we're going to come in with a pretty strict set of protocols around how we're going to repopulate the campus. Next slide, just for a second, to take a couple of other issues that are on people's minds before we come back to repopulating the campus. So on the financial side, here's what I would say about this. There's no big changes to anything I've told you in the past. We're not having, there are no planned, big layoffs and things like that right now. Remember, we have, constrained spending quite a bit. We did voluntary things like the early retirement program. Here's the latest numbers on that. I think we were just at the end of that at the last meeting, so we didn't have numbers. About 60 people took us up on the offer for early retirement. That's the current numbers are 13 faculty and 47 staff. Those folks are still going through and inking their final agreements and things, so those numbers are likely to change a little bit, but that represents about 5% of our workforce overall. Obviously much more staff than faculty in this case, but that's going to help us with some flexibility. It's also going to present some challenges, and so we're working through that. And what it's really going to do is all the organizations now are off looking at their vacancies and proposing some changes to organizational structure. So stay tuned on that. I'm about to get a bunch of inputs on that. And if we need to do some critical backfill hiring, we will do that. We are working those now. Incoming class, which also is all about the revenue that comes in. We're on track. It still remains looking good. We're seeing some melt over the summer as we'd expect. But boy, I'll tell you, yesterday we had first year registration opened, and in the first 2 hours, 700 people registered for classes. And by the end of the day yesterday, over 1,000 people had registered. So it's looking really good, but we won't really know until we send the bills out in early to mid-July and the tuition revenue comes back in. So until then, we really are managing conservatively. So we've given all the divisions targets for their non-salary budgets, which is like procurement and travel and that kind of stuff, that have very, very significant cuts in them for next year. We're talking with them about how to reduce that. Obviously, if we get a great uptake on students coming back and everyone is paying their tuition, we will be able to back off on some of these constraints. But until that happens, which, again, we'll know more by the beginning of September or so, maybe earlier, but maybe a little later, kind of depending on how things play, we'll keep you posted on that. And again, we've been tightening up on expenditures. And so we're working on a process for pre-approval of again, this isn't about salaries, this is about operating budget purchases, and only operating budget, not grants, for large purchases, say over $1,000, to instead of doing approval on the back end, to do approval on the front end. So that'll be a new process. I know how much we love new processes around here, but we're going to try that and see how it goes. And especially in this moment where we need to manage really conservatively, I think it makes a lot of sense. That pre-approval will be local. So this is not about, me approving people's expenditures. This is about everybody being thoughtful about their spending. Okay. And then, so that's one thing. The next thing is about the academic calendar. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So I have not rolled this out to anybody beyond the faculty and staff yet. I told the students this might be coming, but I have not showed it to them. We are going to update the academic calendar for next year. It's a slight update at the beginning of the year. And so let me just walk through this with you. So we were originally going to start a term on August 27th, which is the Thursday of the week before we are now planning to start. We are going to start instead on August 31st. Again, there was some push by some folks to go way earlier. They're pushed by other folks to go later. I think this gives us enough time to get the residence halls ready, to get the classrooms ready. And also there's a lot of nice things about the way this calendar ends up laying out. One of the not nice things about it is that we're going to have classes on Labor Day in a term. The last thing I want is for everyone just to get to campus and then to run off for a long weekend, the students, I mean, and this will discourage that. I think this is a better approach for safety, but I do recognize that Labor Day is a holiday that lots of people take. Obviously, if you want to take a vacation day, you have vacation days, you can do that. And we will add a replacement holiday. They're not taking away your holiday. We'll add a replacement holiday sometime later in December. We'll get back to you with more info on that. So starting a little bit later, reducing the gap between A term and B term. Again, the goal is people don't go off to far-flung places for a week or 10 days, and then I'll come back and increase the risk. But we do need a little bit of time between terms, especially because we're giving students flexibility. If they want to be remote in A term and come to campus in B term, they can. And plus, of course, probably need a little bit of time for grading and preparation. And I'm sorry that's going to be so tight, but hopefully we can plan for it, given enough advanced knowledge. And then we only go 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. We're not going to make a specific call about after Thanksgiving right now. It could be that by the time we get to B term, we'll say after Thanksgiving is going to be remote, but I don't think we can say that right now. But it could be. And so that gives us more flexibility. It's just 2 weeks. It's that last bit of term. We'll see how that goes. The beautiful thing about this plan is that all Mondays are Mondays, and we don't have any weird days that are other days in this plan. So this is the plan for the academic calendar. I want to thank Art Heinricher, John McNeil, a bunch of faculty who have worked on the calendar committee, I think CAP and others. And by the way, I should mention on the financial slide too, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Jeff is going to meet with FAP on Monday and talk more about the financial status and about this approval of spending over 1,000 and things like that. So we are incorporating faculty governance into our decision-making processes here. But yeah, so this is the plan for the academic calendar. And so we'll have a longer break, which will be really good. I think we're all really going to need this by mid-December. So next slide. So let's talk a little bit about return to campus. So I see this as kind of a three-legged stool, or I guess this is a three-widget. So 3 pieces of this. One, we're doing this in a phased way. It's not everybody coming back all at once, which means that we need to start it, by the middle of the summer so that we can do it in phases before students return. 2, I'm going to talk to you some today, and I've already been talking, but I'll talk more about safety protocols that are going to be in place. And 3, flexibility and accommodation are a part of the plan. So we're going to take a slow measured approach. So we call these things pathways, 3 phases essentially of reopening. I'm going to show you exactly who's in which phase in a minute. It's going to be planful and tailored. Each department is going to have their own reopening plan that will be approved by the CERT. So we will have templates for that and lots of checklists and things so that it's not we're not leaving anyone to their own to prepare it. But we also know that each department has different mission, different needs, different staffing, and so needs to think through how they will reopen. We're going to be following protocols, safety protocols, national, state, local guidelines. We're going to have training, and everyone's going to have to take it. I know how much we all love required training. Everyone's going to have to take it about COVID, about how we're going to keep each other safe. And again, accommodations for high-risk members of our community. So we will work that really, really hard. Next slide. Okay, so there's a lot of words on this slide, but I wanted to get it all on one. This is about safety protocols. And again, I want to go back to that North Star. Keep us together, right? Keep the WPI family together. And to be honest, if we really want to work to keep us together, we're going to have to figure out how we are able to reopen here and do it safely. If I really thought we couldn't do it safely, I wouldn't be doing it. I do believe we can do it safely. But this is really important, guys. So here we go. So our in-person environment will be de-densified. Classrooms and offices will be configured to enable social distancing, or the populations in those rooms will not be as high as they normally would. Everybody's going to need to get used to those masks. I know how much we all love them, but folks are going to need to wear masks unless you are, like I am right now, alone in your office, and practice social distancing when we're together. For students, we're working on ways that they can have sort of pods in their residence halls where they may not have to be masked in small groups. And obviously in their rooms, they don't have to be, but for the most part, we're going to be expecting students to be masked too. Believe me, they love that. But it's really, really proven to drive down the spread. Testing and contact tracing are going to be in place before students come back and before we have very large numbers of faculty and staff back on the campus. So we are working on testing protocols. We're working on getting testing for faculty, staff, and students. Stay tuned for more info on that. We're working that really hard. I'm working it, just so you all know, with very well-known names and providers that you will have heard of when we talk about them, and with the presidents of many, many other colleges. We're working on a Massachusetts-wide solution. It's pretty exciting, actually. Self-checks of symptoms. People with symptoms need to stay home. All that for students and faculty and staff, that's going to be true. For students who test positive, we have isolation space set aside for up to almost 100 students. Again, my goal, my hope is that we never get nearly that high. And close contacts of those folks will need to be quarantined. For students living on campus, they will quarantine in place. Actually, for all of us, we would most likely, all of us would be quarantining in place. Those are for people who have not tested positive, but who may have had an exposure. We'll be doing a ton of enhanced cleaning. And look, here's what I would say. Many of us can continue to work remotely. There are a lot of offices that are not student facing and a lot of roles where even within offices that are student facing, where sometimes folks can work remotely. And I think it's important that we encourage people to do that as it makes sense to do so. But we will expect student-facing faculty and staff to come to campus for certain key activities like on-campus teaching, like advising and student services. It's not an exhaustive list. Again, each department needs to make their own plan. But the idea here is that if students are back, we need to be back to serve them. We will figure out how we can figure offices and things to do that safely. We're working on all of those plans now. But that's the hope and the idea. And for those who are at high risk of returning to campus and need to request an accommodation, they can contact Heather Mulry in Talent and Inclusion, but you don't have to write that down now because we're actually going to have a return to campus plan that gets posted probably tomorrow at the latest Monday that'll have all this information in it. So hopefully all of this will be captured there and you don't need to be writing all this down. These are the things that we're all going to do to work together to stay safe. And I hope that I'm instilling some confidence in you that we're taking this extremely seriously. And I'm telling you, it's a little weird to come back into the office. And yesterday I walked out, I just went out to get a little sunshine yesterday when it was sunny. And then the door closed behind me and I went, oh crap, I forgot my mask. I got to learn a new thing, right? We all have to learn a new way of operating, but I'm telling you, we absolutely will. And again, us coming back slowly over the summer will help us learn our new ways of working before the students come back. So let's talk a little bit about these different pathways. I know I'm going a little bit long here, and then I'll take some questions. So this is sort of the first wave, if you will, of people returning to campus. First of all, I want to point up to the list in the upper right. Those are people who are already here on campus: health services, campus safety, facilities, IT, research labs that are reopening, things like that, res services. These others in the gray would be the first wave of folks coming back. It's not very many. It's a pretty small number of people beyond those who are already here. Those offices are currently working on or beginning to work on reopening plans and can submit them starting next week. Those will get approved pretty quickly. We want to make sure that we give employees plenty of time. Even if you say you work in, for example, the office of the provost, it may not be that every employee in the office of the provost, I back up. It will not be that every employee in the office of the provost is coming back at the same time and the same day, because in fact, we need to be dedensified. So not everybody's going to come back on the first day in the first wave, but we will notify employees of our intent there with sort of 2 to 3 weeks notice. At the last meeting, I pledged at least 2 weeks. We're going to try and make it 3 wherever we can. And again, the earliest any of these offices would actually reopen would be after 4th of July holiday. So we're looking at July 8th. And then we would evaluate how we're doing and give the go ahead for pathway 2, which is in the next slide. So this is getting to be more people back to campus, and this is really about getting ready for students to come back. But you can see in the red on the bottom, we're looking at end of July for those folks to start coming back on the campus. So you've got from now a month and a half to be kind of getting ready in all the ways that folks need to. And again, it will not be 100% of the people in all of these offices coming back all at once. It can't be that. So that's what those offices need to be working on for their plans. And again, we will have posted either tomorrow or Monday all of the tools that folks need to be making those plans. So that is wave 2. Academic departments are in pathway 2. And then pathway 3 is sort of everybody else. I think we kind of got everybody else, but I added that last line, all other campus offices, in case we forgot anybody. If so, I'm so sorry. And again, that's more like mid-August for return. So we're phasing it. We're going to evaluate and think hard, and we're going to make sure that our plans are working. Next slide, please. So I hope I've succeeded today in sharing some insight into the way that we're thinking about campus safety as we ask faculty and staff to return. I've shared a lot more information about on the student side with the student groups we've been talking to, things like the kinds of flexibility students will have on academics in the fall, for remote options and in-person options, and the way we're going to de-densify our classrooms. We're very much de-densifying our residence halls. It used to be that we had, I think in first year housing, 86 or 87% triples and quads. We will now have, like 15% triples, no quads. So we're really de-densifying housing. We're thinking hard about how that's all going to work. We talked to them about that. We talked to them about, events and student life and how we're trying to reimagine all that stuff. But really, this is about them, right? These are all students who are part of our incoming class. We sent them all lawn signs, which is adorable. They've all got t-shirts, they've got swag. They're so excited to be joining our community. And I know this is a stressful time. Some of you are probably really stressed out to hear about the return, but just know that we are going to be working that hand in hand with you on the plans. I would expect your supervisors and your division heads will be communicating more directly with you, with your divisions, about your returning plans, and we're going to continue to work together. So excited to welcome students back, but that's still quite a long time away, nearly 3 months from now, like 2.5 months from now. We have a lot of time to continue to work together to make this all right. So next slide, please. That is it from me. We have about 20 minutes for Q&A. I see there are some good questions in the Q&A box. I urge everyone to type their questions in the Q&A, and I'll turn it over to Kyle Siegel. I will say that life continues here while Well, we've all been on lockdown. You know, not only did Andy Palumbo bring in a great class for the class of 2024, but his wife just had a baby like yesterday, I think, or today. I don't even know. But congratulations to the whole admissions team on your newest member there. I know so many of us have brought kids into the world during this crazy time, and just a lot of joy there. So thanks again so much, and looking forward to the conversation. Kyle, you want to jump in here? And maybe Kate? Yeah, great.
Yes, thank you, Lori. First question about the staff and faculty who may have participated in the early retirement incentive plan. Will we be celebrating or acknowledging them before they leave, and also for business continuity, getting notice on who is no longer working here with us?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So obviously, if we were all together, we would be having retirement parties and doing other sorts of things. I think we need to figure out a way to do that. Michelle, I think I see that you're out here. I might ask you to weigh in. We are currently working on, as we finalize those lists, and we will think through the right way to get that information out. I don't want to violate anybody's privacy or anything. So Michelle, help me with this one. If you can unmute.
Hi, Lori. We are meeting to discuss how to best do that, but we don't have a full list yet. As you mentioned earlier, they are still working on their agreements. So we don't have a full list to share yet, but we will when we're able to do so. And then we're also thinking about how we want to celebrate those people that will be leaving.
Yes, massive Zoom dance party or something. So thank you, Michelle. Yeah, so we will be in touch about that. We're not ready to do that yet, but we will. Thank you.
Thank you. You talked about how WPI will work to maximize flexibility for both faculty and staff for folks who are either at high risk or uncomfortable coming back to campus. Can you talk a little bit more about that flexibility, and also for those who are in student-facing roles, as you mentioned on the slide, and any risk of someone losing their jobs if they're not comfortable coming back?
So good question. And I think this is really the crux of it, right? So we'll keep working it is one answer. I don't have a good sense of how many folks there are who need accommodation, look, I'm really high risk. I'm immunocompromised. I have my husband, my parent, whoever I live with is immunocompromised. Those situations, we are going to do absolutely everything we can to accommodate. And fair enough. Like, I get it and I also get that it's challenging that we're making you tell us this stuff, which at some level doesn't feel right to me. On the other hand, I can't think of any other way to do it. So we will work like the Dickens on accommodation there. And again, I would never ask someone with who is truly high risk to put themselves in a position that, to come back and be in a heavily student-facing position that might be less safe than staying home. For those who are nervous about coming back, I will say, one, I get it. Part of my goal today was to start to share the practices that we're going to have in place to help provide information to assuage fears as much as possible. I think as more faculty and staff come back to campus, staff probably especially over the course of the summer, I think we'll start to be able to have more voices than mine coming from offices and telling you what it's like. I wish I could say that, hey, nobody who doesn't want to come to campus, everybody who wants to just work from home can work from home forever. I don't think we can say that. I'm being really honest. I don't think we can say that. And I think, I've just told all the families today about how I'm not going to cut tuition. And we need to provide them with a level of service that is reasonable and is in line with our WPI expectations. And so it's a balancing act, folks, to be really honest. And that being said, I think there are a lot of people on this campus that can work remotely at least part of the time, maybe not every hour of every day, but for a good part of the time. I think there are a lot of people who can. And I think there are certain roles where they can work almost exclusively remotely. And frankly, if that's true, I think they should. I think they should, because it only helps with the de-densification on the campus. So we're going to be talking more about this, and we'll be talking about it at a much more local level. I think these are things that are hard to talk about at an institutional level. I think, you know, kind of department by department, division by division, we'll be taking on these issues and really trying to work as hard as we can to accommodate folks. And also to make sure it is as safe as we can reasonably make it here on the campus.
Thank you, Lori. A question about NTT faculty. How many NTT faculty have not seen their contract renewed for the coming year, and why?
So they get appointed annually, so it's not so much a contract, but I don't know the exact number. There are a handful. Wally, I see, has unmuted his video, so maybe he can share a little bit about NTT reappointment, which we've now sent all those out today. Yes. You want to
Yes, thank you, Lori. So today we sent out 118 reappointment letters to entities that are being reappointed for the coming year. And I believe we have a total of 10 entities that have not been reappointed this year. And there are lots of reasons why this is the case. But overall, I think the university has really shown very strong commitment to protecting the jobs of entities, you know, with really strong support from the president in this endeavor.
Thanks. I mean, we always have some entities that don't renew. I don't know how this number compares to that normal number, but I do realize that people have concerns about it. We have sent out those appointments now. I've also heard some concern about the one-year nature of those appointments. I know that we were working together as a campus to try to extend the length of appointments for non-tenure track faculty. That is something that remains a really high priority for me and for Wally, I know. And so unfortunately, in this moment of uncertainty was not something we were able to get done this year, but my hope is that we can even extend some of those commitments as we get into the fall, that it's not going to be a year from now until those faculty know that they have a longer commitment from us. So we will continue to work that.
Thank you. Another faculty question, or question related to faculty, around tenure clocks. And there's specifically for junior faculty who may not have childcare or elder care for those in their families. There's some concern around continually delaying the tenure clock. What might be an ethical response to this?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, I'm trying to read it, make sure I understand. Yeah. I know, I'm with you, Jennifer. Thank you for asking it. I think that probably takes deeper thinking than I'm able to do in real time on a town hall. I would welcome CTAF and COPE and others. I mean, I think the tenure clock is one piece of it, but childcare and elder care is an issue for a lot of our community, and one that I think we need to take on. It's an equity issue for sure. I wish I had a brilliant answer for it, but I'm not sure I do yet. Well, not that I would ever have a brilliant answer, but sorry. Help me, Wally.
I do think there's a lot of empathy for our faculty.
For sure.
And what we're doing is, especially at this moment, we're working with each faculty member, especially those that have young ones to take care of, those that have childcare issues. And we will consider these as we sort of work out the details with each one. As a matter of fact, it's interesting to see about half of the people that were offered the extended clock insisted on going on because they were comfortable in doing so. And the ones that wanted the extensions, both male and female, have chosen to take the extensions. And I think we will continue in the same spirit to work with those that have other needs to ensure that people get a fair shot at doing their best work with the support of the institution.
Yeah, look, I think there are a lot of equity issues that COVID-19 has really laid bare, and this is one of them. I mean, it's people with young families, women in the workplace, in the research labs. You know, we've on one hand come a long way. On the other hand, like it was fragile, right? It's fragile.
Yeah.
And the tenure system exposes that fragility. The people who succeed in it again, this is one of the things that I dislike about the tenure system. It's been very successful at perpetuating inequities, right? And some of those are around gender, a lot of those are around race. And how do we start to make it more equitable? If any place can have those conversations and figure that out, I think it's WPI. And I look forward to working with you. And I share the frustration, Jennifer. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Jumping to some health and safety questions.
Yeah.
You mentioned enhanced cleaning. Will there be additional folks hired in facilities to help that? How might that be managed?
Yeah, so we're talking about all that right now, especially because the facilities group was hit especially hard by the early retirement. So we will be doing some hiring and potentially some outsourcing as well, not outsourcing of current stuff, but like getting help and support on deep cleaning stuff. We're still working on all those plans, and but mostly it's going to be our own folks doing that, specially trained and certified to do that. Yes, so we will be doing that. And we're also hiring extra staff in our health services group to help manage this with our students, help manage the testing and isolation protocols and things like that. So you will start to see some hiring starting to happen. Again, key backfills from the retirement group, because we actually had a few more people take it than we had expected, which is on one hand a good thing financially. On the other hand, we've got to balance those needs and make sure we're doing that. We've set aside some funding in our conservative budget for the year for extra expenses to manage in the era of COVID. And so those are things we're using for things like extra cleaning protocols and materials, and making sure our health services is what it needs to be. We just today approved a purchase. Every incoming student is going to get a little kit that's got some masks and hand sanitizer and a thermometer in it. Every residential student is going to get that. Those kind of expenses, we budgeted for that. So it will not be additional hit to what is already a tight budget.
Great, thank you. Related to students, Massachusetts still has a 14-day quarantine period for people entering the state. Will students need to be quarantined when they come to campus if they come into Massachusetts?
Yeah, thanks. So Massachusetts has a recommended 14-day quarantine for people coming in the state from out of state. I expect that we may see that change in phase 3. So again, I should have mentioned this during the talk, but I didn't. So Massachusetts has a phase reopening plan. This week we started phase 2, right? I think everybody's probably been paying attention to that. Higher ed is linked to the Commonwealth's phase 3. So we can, by the way, make all the great old plans we want. And if the Commonwealth doesn't get to phase 3, we will not be repopulating the campus with students in the fall. We can be slowly opening our offices because that was in phase 1 and research labs were in phase 1. But our sort of fall reopening is a phase 3 activity within the Commonwealth. I think we will see whether that changes that recommendation about quarantine in phase 3. But the other way to get around that is to test people when they arrive. And so, and to test them regularly, especially at first. And so that is also a plan that we're working on. I think we will be sending messaging to students about trying to kind of reduce their risk in the last couple of weeks before they travel here, not to be out at, massive beach parties or whatever, so that they can arrive on campus with the lowest possible risk. But yeah, so we are definitely thinking about that as a constraint, sort of how do we reduce the risk of arriving students? And we'll be working that through testing and through other protocols.
Thank you. And how will we ensure compliance for both students, faculty, and staff with social distancing and mask use or face covering use?
Great question. Came up in all the student town halls too. So look, I gave a whole speech in this town hall already about community and how important this is. I think it's really important that we don't sort of set this up as a punitive rule following thing, which might work for us, but will not work well for students. What we need is to get everyone to buy into this concept that we are a community, and part of being a part of this community in the fall and the coming year is going to be about wearing a mask. It's going to be about keeping your distance. It's going to be about not going to massive off-campus parties. This is what you're signing up for when you're coming to our community. We have, we talked extensively at CERT today. So today was CERT meeting number 33. We spent 2.5 hours in CERT today, 3 hours on Tuesday. Today's topic, a lot of it was about compliance, especially on the student side. We will be updating the student code of conduct, and we will be working with students to develop approaches to have all of us as a community sort of work together to call out each other and to create an environment where these safety protocols are the expectation and the norm. We all know that students are way better at getting other students to do things than any of us are. Anyone with a teenage child knows that. So peer pressure is way better than power pressure. So we're going to work on that. And I heard a lot of great ideas today about how to do that. For faculty and staff, again, we will have the expectation that you comply with safety protocols. By the way, these are not safety protocols that we made up. In workplaces in Massachusetts, masks and distancing are required, not optional. And again, understanding there are people with certain health conditions that cannot wear them. Those people should be talking to us. But for everybody else, unless, again, like me, you're alone in your office, the expectation is going to be that you wear a mask and that we work hard to have people stay at a safe distance wherever possible. And so we'll have that expectation of employees. But again, the hope is that we can create a culture where it's okay to call each other out about this stuff. I don't want to be the hardcore. I don't want to be the mask police if I can help it. Let's work together on this. Let's make it a community compact. That's very WPI, I think, way of doing it.
Thank you. Will WPI be providing masks and face coverings?
Typically, no. We will expect people to provide their own. We will have a supply if you're so TBD in a little bit more detail, but we'll probably have stashes of them in most offices. If a student walks in without a mask, you throw one at them, or if somebody forgets their mask at home, we'll have some supplies here. But no, it's going to become a bit like your shoes, right? We expect you to come to work with the gear that you need. And again, cloth masks are fine. Here's one. I had a parent of a first-year student made this for me and sent it to me. It has little goats on it, see? That one works perfectly well. They actually work great to reduce the spread. Cloth masks are fine.
Thank you. And we're just about out of time. So one more question. Is there a way that, I think specifically graduate admissions, but maybe other departments too, can work with you to create communication to incoming students to help keep them engaged and allow them to feel part of WPI, especially if they're international and not able to come to campus? Working
on all those plans right now, working it super hard, actually. For whoever asked that, I would suggest that if you are involved in admissions, you reach out to the people in marketing that you work with, make sure that we've got communication to whatever segment of our student population you're concerned about in the queue. Absolutely, that's part of the plan. Believe me, we are really communicating a ton with students, incoming students, especially right now, and that's only going to ramp up in the summer. We had tons and tons of great questions from them today, very specific questions. They don't know us yet, right? And so they have very specific questions, and we want to try and answer those. But if you know what some of those questions are, please work with marketing and communication partners on making sure that we are hearing the voice of our students there. Thank you. I think we're just about out of time. And so we'll work to answer the other questions that were in the queue. We're sorry we weren't able to get to everyone, but we'll have someone get back to you with an answer. Can I just say one thing about the second wave? I just see a couple of quick questions there. Look, we'll have to have a plan in place that would have some kind of phase down if there is an outbreak. We need to do a bit more work around this. So please know that it's not that we haven't thought of that question. We have. We actually have, again, I've been working with presidents all across higher ed in Massachusetts, pulling some good practices from them. I think the folks at Tufts created this different level of alert, almost like the DEFCON, down to DEFCON 1, whatever. And we'll be at some already heightened alert when everybody's back. But the idea is there some level between sort of operating open and with a lot of safety measures and everybody goes home, right? Kind of where we got to in D term. And there probably is a level between those two that is, okay, everybody, Everybody's quarantined for 2 weeks. We're going to teach remotely, but people can stay, and we're going to see if there's an outbreak, if we can get that under control. But believe me, these are the scenarios that we are thinking hard about working our way through, and we will set up some kind of a system, and we will make it very clear to everybody on the campus, where are we? How are we doing? We will be communicating about that in the fall. So again, thanks for those questions, and thanks for all the concern. For employees and for faculty and staff, for asymptomatic testing, we will be looking at covering the cost for that. I saw one up there about that. So again, we're working on a provider that's going to drive the cost down significantly for us. So that would be exciting. Yeah, we're looking forward to having that testing protocol in place. I think it's going to be a big relief to everybody to be able to know that they've been tested and their coworkers have been tested as people are coming back. We may not have it in place right when the first couple of waves are coming back, but as we get closer to the students coming back and there'll be more people on campus, we will begin a testing program. So stay tuned for more on that. Thank you all so much. I'm really looking forward to beginning slowly, surely, not for a while, not for another month or so, but soon to start seeing more of you on the campus. So take care, everybody.